How many times have you stayed awake at night, replaying scenarios that never happened, doubting decisions that were never wrong, and fearing outcomes that never came? Overthinking is not clarity, it's chaos. Today, I want to share why letting go and trusting God's plan is the most powerful decision you'll ever make. Let me ask you something. How many times have you stood on the edge of a great opportunity and done nothing? Not because you weren't ready, not because you weren't capable, but because you were lost in thought, analyzing, calculating, predicting every possible outcome until the moment passed you by. That's the silent killer of dreams, overthinking. It's not a habit, it's a mental trap that keeps you locked in a prison of hesitation while life moves on without you. When you overthink, you believe you're being cautious, but what you're really doing is disguising fear as wisdom. You're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect certainty, and none of those things exist. Life was never designed to give you guarantees before you act. If certainty were a requirement for progress, humanity would still be living in caves. Every great achievement in history began with a step into uncertainty, taken by someone who refused to let fear of the unknown dictate their destiny. The real danger of overthinking isn't just lost time, it's lost courage. Every time you hesitate, your confidence erodes a little more. You begin to question yourself. You create problems in your mind that don't even exist in reality. Have you noticed that? Most of the battles you fight never leave your imagination. They are shadows, illusions, phantoms of fear, and yet you treat them as real. You negotiate with them, plan around them, and in the process, you talk yourself out of action. Here's a truth most people never face: overthinking is a form of arrogance. Yes, arrogance, because it assumes that your own logic, your own mental power is enough to predict and control every outcome in life. But life isn't a mathematical equation. It's a living, breathing force, and it obeys principles far greater than your reasoning. You cannot think your way into certainty, because certainty doesn't exist outside of faith. I've met countless people who had the intelligence to succeed, the resources to succeed, the opportunities lined up perfectly, and they still failed. Not because life was against them, but because they refused to act without a guarantee. They kept waiting for the clouds to clear, for the road to straighten, for the fear to disappear. But the clouds never fully clear, the road never fully straightens, and fear never fully disappears. Progress belongs to the person who acts in spite of those things. And here's the irony: the more you overthink, the less accurate your thinking becomes. Analysis is useful up to a point, but beyond that point, it becomes paralysis. When you start imagining 10 different scenarios, each worse than the last, you are no longer thinking, you are catastrophizing. You are creating fictional tragedies that rob you of real victories. And the longer you entertain them, the more power they have over you. So what's the solution? It's simple, but not easy. Act before you feel ready. Move before you see the whole staircase. Because action is the cure for overthinking. When you move, you break the cycle. You force your mind to focus on what is real, the step you are taking now, rather than what is imaginary. Action brings clarity. Movement creates momentum, and momentum is stronger than doubt. Remember this: the world doesn't reward the person who thinks the most, it rewards the person who acts the most. Thinking without action is like a seed that never touches the soil. It holds potential, but it will never grow. And what good is potential if it never becomes reality? So stop asking, what if it goes wrong? Start asking, what if it goes right? Stop imagining failure and start imagining possibility, because life is waiting for you, not in the realm of thought, but in the realm of action. And if you take only one thing from this message, let it be this: overthinking is a thief. It steals your time, your peace, your dreams. Don't give it another second of your life. Act now. Because every moment you hesitate, someone else is moving forward, and tomorrow they will be living the life you only thought about. Now, after you understand how overthinking paralyzes progress, you must also understand what sets you free, and that is faith. Not blind optimism, not wishful thinking, but faith. The unwavering belief that there's a purpose greater than your fear and a power greater than your doubt guiding your steps. Fear and faith cannot live in the same space. One will always dominate the other. When fear grows, faith withers. But when faith is strong, fear cannot survive. Why? Because fear feeds on uncertainty, while faith thrives on it. Fear demands to see the entire road before it moves, but faith says, I will take the first step, even if I can't see the rest. That single decision, to trust in the unseen, is what separates those who live in anxiety from those who live in peace. People often ask, how can I trust when I don't know the outcome? And my answer is simple, how can you not? Every day you trust without certainty. You breathe without knowing your next breath is guaranteed. You sleep without knowing you'll wake up. You drive without controlling every car on the road. Life is built on faith, whether you acknowledge it or not. The question is, will you use that faith intentionally or let fear control you? When you trust God's plan, you make a choice to stop worshiping your worries. You refuse to let the unknown become your master. And here's the truth most people miss: faith is not passive. It's not sitting still and hoping for the best. Faith is active. It moves. It acts in alignment with what it believes. The person who truly trusts does not sit and wait for signs. They create movement, knowing the way will unfold as they go. Understand this: fear will always whisper, what if it doesn't work? Faith will answer, what if it does? Fear shows you the storm. Faith shows you the calm beyond it. Fear chains you to the shore. Faith pushes you to sail. And if you've ever wondered why some people seem to rise above impossible odds, it's because they made a decision to feed faith and starve fear. So the next time fear begins to speak, don't argue with it. Silence it by acting on faith. Because faith is not just an antidote to fear. It's the foundation of every victory you will ever achieve. And until you trust fully, you will never live fully. After faith, there is something even more liberating, something that feels counterintuitive to the human mind. And that is surrender. Not surrender in the sense of giving up or quitting, but surrender in its highest form, releasing the illusion of control. We live in a world obsessed with control. We plan, we predict, we calculate, and when things don't go as expected, we spiral into stress and disappointment. Why? Because deep down, we believe we can, and should, control everything. But let me tell you a truth. Most people spend a lifetime resisting. Control is an illusion. You control nothing but your choices. Everything else, time, circumstances, outcomes, even the next breath in your lungs, is beyond your authority. Think about this for a moment. How much energy have you wasted trying to manipulate outcomes that were never yours to command? How many sleepless nights have you endured because life refused to follow your blueprint? And yet, in the end, life always unfolds according to a design larger than your plans. That's not failure, that's reality. The more you fight this truth, the more anxious and exhausted you become. Surrender is not weakness, it is strength in its purest form, because surrender is born of wisdom. It says, I will do everything within my power, but I will not break myself trying to control what is beyond my power. When you surrender, you shift from resistance to alignment. You stop forcing doors that were never meant to open and start walking through the ones God has unlocked for you. Do you know what really keeps people trapped? It's not lack of opportunity. It's the refusal to let go of their obsession with control. They cling to outcomes, they demand certainty, and in doing so, they chain themselves to disappointment. The irony: the moment you release control, you gain peace. The moment you let go, you allow life to flow in the direction it was always meant to. And here's something profound: surrender doesn't mean doing less. It means doing your part with excellence, then trusting that the rest is being handled by a wisdom greater than your own. That's real power. The power to move without fear, the power to live without tension, the power to trust without proof. So the next time life feels out of control, remember this: it was never in your control to begin with. And that is not a loss, it's a gift. Because when you stop trying to play God, you finally make room for Him to work in your life. Surrender isn't giving up, it's stepping up to a higher way of living. Now, once you've surrendered control, there's something else you must understand, something that will save you from unnecessary pain and disappointment. And that is this: delay does not mean denial. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. We live in a culture addicted to immediacy. We want everything now, success now, results now, answers now. And when life makes us wait, we assume something is wrong, that we've been overlooked, or worse, that we've been denied. But the truth is far more empowering. Life operates on seasons, and no amount of impatience can ripen fruit before its time. Think about the farmer who plants a seed. He doesn't dig it up the next day because he can't see growth. He doesn't declare the soil barren because the sprout hasn't appeared. He understands that growth happens underground before it happens in the open. Your life works the same way. There are seasons of preparation where nothing seems to move on the surface, yet everything is developing beneath it. The delay you hate may be the very process shaping you for what you've asked for. The problem with overthinking is that it interprets waiting as failure. It whispers, if it hasn't happened yet, it's never going to happen. And that lie causes so many people to abandon the path right before the breakthrough. I've seen it countless times. People give up too soon because they confuse silence with absence. But let me assure you, silence is not absence and delay is not denial. Sometimes the delay exists to protect you. Sometimes it exists to prepare you. Sometimes it exists because the thing you want is ready, but you are not. And that's not punishment. It's mercy. Because what good is a blessing if you're too weak, too unprepared, or too immature to handle it? Timing matters as much as opportunity. So when the wait feels long, don't let frustration destroy your faith. Don't let impatience sabotage your destiny. The seed you planted is still alive. The promise is still intact. And the season you're praying for will come, not a day too early and not a day too late, but at the precise moment it's meant to. Remember this, the delay is part of the design. Trust it. Because when the time is right, what seemed impossible will arrive so effortlessly that you'll wonder why you ever doubted in the first place. Now let's talk about the battlefield, where everything begins and ends, your mind. Because make no mistake, your mind will either be the source of your greatest breakthroughs or the architect of your deepest bondage. It can be your miracle, or it can be your prison. Every thought you entertain carries energy. Thoughts are not harmless visitors. They are builders. Each one lays a brick in the structure of your life. If your thoughts are dominated by fear, doubt, and limitation, you are building a prison with your own hands. A prison that keeps you locked inside excuses, trapped inside anxiety, and chained to the belief that nothing can change. On the other hand, when your mind is saturated with faith, vision, and possibility, you begin constructing a very different reality. You start opening doors where others see walls. You start finding opportunities in what others call obstacles. Why? Because your mind is the lens through which you interpret the world. Change the lens, and the entire picture shifts. What most people fail to understand is that the external world is a reflection of the internal one. You don't experience life as it is. You experience life as you are. If your inner dialogue is filled with fear, your outer life will reflect chaos. If your thoughts are consumed with lack, your reality will mirror scarcity. The mind is the root, circumstances are the fruit. You cannot plant weeds in your thinking and expect roses in your life. So what do? You guard your mind like the most valuable treasure you own, because it is. You refuse to let toxic thoughts linger. You refuse to meditate on fear and failure. And when doubt knocks, you replace it with affirmations of faith and power. This isn't just positive thinking, it's disciplined thinking. It's training your mind to serve your purpose instead of sabotage it. You see, the most dangerous prison is not built with bars, it's built with beliefs. And the most powerful miracle is not an event, it's a mindset. If you can master your thoughts, you can master your destiny. So ask yourself, is my mind creating chains or creating chances? Am I building walls or building bridges? Because in the end, the quality of your life will never exceed the quality of your thinking. Start thinking in alignment with faith, with vision, with trust, and watch your life transform. Everything we've talked about so far, faith, surrender, mastering your mind, leads to one final truth: none of it matters if you don't act. Action is where belief is proven. You can think positively, you can trust deeply, you can even pray fervently. But if you never take a step, you'll remain exactly where you are. Faith without action is nothing more than a daydream. It sounds good, it feels inspiring, but it changes nothing. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who waited for all the lights to turn green before they left their driveway. They started the journey while the road was still unclear. They stepped forward when doubt tried to hold them back. And that's the essence of acting in faith. You move even when you cannot see the entire staircase. You take the next step with confidence, knowing that clarity often comes after motion, not before it. Waiting for perfect certainty is the enemy of progress, because life never offers that luxury. If you require every answer before you begin, you will never begin. Have you ever noticed that opportunities often reveal themselves only after you've committed to action? That's not coincidence. That's the law of life. Motion attracts provision. Action invites alignment. The doors you're waiting for won't open while you're standing still. They open as you walk toward them. Of course, action requires courage, and courage often feels uncomfortable. You will hear fear whisper, "What if it fails?" But if failure is your greatest fear, you'll never experience true success. The truth is, failure is not fatal, it's instructional. Every step forward, even the wrong ones, teaches you something the sidelines never will. Stop waiting for a sign so obvious it eliminates all risk. That sign does not exist. The sign you're waiting for is the breath in your lungs right now. The proof that you have life, which means you have purpose. Start before you feel ready. Move before the plan is perfect. Act with what you have, where you are, and trust that what you need will meet you on the way. Because in the end, faith without action is noise, but faith with action, that's power. That's the force that changes lives, builds dreams, and turns impossibilities into testimonies. So don't just believe, begin. Don't just hope, move. Because destiny doesn't meet you in hesitation, it meets you in motion.